Yo, what up?
Um,
I'm Chuck, and I'm an LA Lakers fan.
So I'm mad at you because you never take my advice.
Like what?
Like, don't go to a white girl parent's house.
She doing licking your balls or something?
and I'm Ronnie J, and I'm a Clippers fan.
Huh? Oh, you must be Jimmy Walker. Blue, you ain't nothing. You don't deserve nothing. You don't get nothing.
And together we are LA Divided.
Divided. NBA All-Star. The fans have voted. LeBron James and Kevin Durant will be the team captains for the 2022 All-Star Game. Team LeBron has won the last 4 games since the team selection has started. Will Kevin Durant be able to dethrone LeBron James, or will LeBron win a 5th straight NBA All-Star Game?
Right of Mitchell, lost to Curry with the steals. Here is LeBron.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to LA Divided, NBA United. I am your host, Good Luck Chuck, here with my buddy Ronnie J, and we're talking
What
the
up?
NBA All-Star Game. All right, so NBA All-Star Game taking place in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Quicken Loans Arena. I still believe it's called.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. You know, LeBron when he left. You just never know. But yeah. So looking forward to that weekend. It's going to be a great weekend of festivities. Obviously, the 3-point contest, the slam dunk contest, always notable things on Saturday night, along with the skills competition, the NBA Rising Stars, which we'll talk about. But of course, we got to get into the bread and butter. And, the thing that leads up to All-Star that's amazing and always a good thing is the announcement of the starters and then the reserves. And so, just getting into, we're going to start with the Eastern Conference. The starters were announced. You had Trae Young and DeMar DeRozan at the guards. You had Kevin Durant, Giannis, and Joel Embiid rounding out the front court, as well as the reserves looked like Darius Garland, James Harden, Zach LaVine, Fred VanVleet, Jimmy Butler, and Chris Middleton, I believe. I'm sorry, I'm reading off the teleprompter here, as well as Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum was also a part of the reserves that rounded out. So when you hear these list of names, starting with the starters, if I may go back to those, Trae, DeMar, Durant, and Giannis and Embiid, does any of these guys stand out like you may feel like didn't deserve to be there?
No, because I actually voted. I participated in the vote. I voted once or twice, and those were actually my picks, with the exception of for my starting 5. I have all of the starters, with the exception of no. Those are. I'm trying to think if I think I might have had Zach LaVine in my starting 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Instead of
That's what I can't remember. So maybe I didn't pick Zach LaVine, but I know I did pick one Chicago Bull for sure. So it might have been DeRozan who I picked. So I essentially snubbed one Chicago, but I knew if one didn't get in, or I knew if one would be in the starting 5, the other would be on the reserve. That was going to happen for sure. So yeah, the starting 5 for the East played out exactly as I voted. So I don't have any problems with the turnout for that. What about yourself?
I mean, the East All-Stars are what reminds me of why positionless basketball shouldn't exist, or should exist, excuse me. Positionless basketball should exist. Because when you look at the Chicago Bulls, you're absolutely right. Like, both guards actually should have got in, and I would have picked LaVine over Trae, in my opinion. Obviously, Trae has had, some health concerns over the year, and the Atlanta Hawks, excuse me, just haven't been performing, that well. So, Trae wasn't necessarily in my starting lineup. However, I can understand why the fans would pick Trae. He's obviously a very captivating player. Reminds a lot of people of Steph light, so to speak. But other than that, yeah, like everybody else, I think well deserving. Durant, he's been injured as of late, but when he was on the floor, obviously he was doing well. Giannis, Embiid is the MVP, so far. So yeah, I'm with you. Only caveat there would have been maybe Levine getting in instead of Trey.
I mean, that can be a toss up, and as it goes with the fan voting, for once, I feel like they actually got it right because it could have went either way. I don't think it would have been a snub either way. But like I said, I already knew a Chicago Bull was going to be in there. I picked Trey, so it went the way that I wanted it to go. So I have no complaints whatsoever.
Yeah, and listen, Trey would have been a reserve if he wasn't a starter. There's no disrespect there. But let's get into the reserves. I mean, Darius Garland of the Cleveland Cavaliers, do you feel like he was deserving looking at that Cavs team? They've got a host of players. I mean, first of all, their rookie, and his name is escaping me. I don't know why. Evan Mobley. Mobley has been, playing out of his mind. Jared Allen, he was involved in that Nets trade. That eventually ended Hart in Brooklyn, has been playing well and he was in my snubs list.
Well, I mean, as you just mentioned, the players, Darius Garland, I mean, we don't get too many Cleveland Cavalier games, so we only getting highlights. So you see what you get, or is what you see is what you get. And I mean, with the reserves going by the coaches, I don't ever feel like that the coaches and the rest of the league gets it wrong. They usually pick the most deserving players. So I mean, as far as the East goes, I was happy to see Fred VanVleet get the nod. Chris Middleton. You always got to have two people from the reigning champions. So. It worked out. It worked out fairly well. I think the league got it right with that. I think they just got it right. I don't really like I say with the East. The East is always a toss up for me. I haven't been a favorite towards the East since Michael Jordan retired. So for now, whoever come out the East is just what it is, because we already know who's gonna win, and we'll get to our picks. But
Yeah. No, listen, there's a couple things obviously for me that kind of stood out with this whole thing dealing with the East. First of all, the coaching. Eric Spoelstra ended up getting the coaching position once the Bulls lost, one of these late games that was deciding who had the best record in the East during the cutoff. Even though there's going to be a couple of more games, it's pretty much been solidified, and Eric Spoelstra of the Miami Heat will be coaching the team since Miami has the best record currently. So I think the Bulls staff, for all the things that they've done, and obviously the way that they've had that team playing, which has been great. They have been the surprise, I think, of the league. So, that Bulls coaching staff kind of missing out on that All-Star game has to kind of hurt. The other thing would be, like, where's LaMelo Ball? I mean, like, when we look at, an All-Star game, you look at like the flashy players, the players that stand out, the players that, really, really kind of have that household appeal. And LaMelo, the sooner that this kid gets into the All-Star game, I think the better for everybody, when it comes to the league and stuff like that, because he is a kid. I think he was heavily scrutinized. I think that a lot of people felt like his father ruined his high school experience, and then eventually, botched his college experience. And it wasn't this kid's fault at all. And I think that all that he's done since he's got an opportunity to get on the court was ball out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So him kind of missing the All-Star game to me, really kind of stood out. He still has an opportunity to make it, since I've heard that Durant is not going to play for sure. So, there's an injury replacement there. I just think LaMelo Ball not being there is kind of a bad thing, for the league in terms of selling the league and selling Charlotte, because that's a Hornets team that is in the playoff picture, has been in the playoff picture, with LaMelo last year as well, for the last couple of years. And they've got a special team down there.
Yeah. And I understand what you're saying, but I got a bit of a take on that one, because the way how I look at it with LaMelo, he's going to be in a Rising Stars Challenge. And as you say, it would have been great for him to be in the All-Star game. He's going to be in the next All-Star games to come. No doubt about it. I possibly even fan voted within the next 2-3 years if he keeps playing the way that he's playing and only gets better each individual year. The reason why I don't feel like he was snubbed this year, like I say, number one, because he's going to be in the Rising Stars Challenge. And then number two, when it comes down to just overall team play, Cleveland is in fourth right now. I don't think anyone would have saw that coming. So with that, it's almost like, when you say Cleveland with no LeBron James, you have to take that into some kind of consideration. So I think that's why Darius Garland got the nod over LaMelo. But, because I think, unfortunately, this might just be a one-time one and done for Darius Garland. I don't think he's going to get picked up again for the rest of his career. That's kind of, I'm not really throwing shade, but when it comes to someone is always going to get snubbed, and his name would be the one that would always get snubbed going forward. So it's like, let's get him in now. The Cavs got a better record. LaMelo is going to be there in the future. So that's kind of why I don't feel like there were any snubs on the East.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and listen, I could agree with you. Obviously, that Charlotte team, not only LaMelo, but Miles Bridges having a fabulous year as well, and a high flyer, a guy that reminds me a lot of Vince Carter into the dunks. I mean, all the above, but like literally the guy, a guy that when you look at just sheer numbers and you look at and everything like that. Jaylen Brown. Why was Tatum picked over Brown in this aspect? That's a guy. Beal also Bradley Beal is. I know it's injury. I know that could play a big part in it too. But Beal is a guy that is a perennial All-Star and a guy that's going to be in All-Star games. Going forward as well. But just to when you look at snubs and you can say, hey, maybe there's no snubs. Maybe you're right. Maybe they got it right. The coaches and the players and the fans. But, guys like LaMelo, Bridges, Jaylen Brown, Beal, Jared Allen, we talked about with the Cavs as well. Could it have been Jared Allen over Garland, vice versa? Because there is no big man. I don't know if you noticed this, but Garland is a guard. Harden's a guard. Levine's a guard. Van Vliet's a guard. Middleton is damn near a guard. Butler's a guard. These are all guards, bro. Like literally every single player that was picked by the East plays on a wing position. There's no other big man. And so you meaning to tell me like a guy like Jared Allen couldn't have got a nod there, just with his play and him being a big part or a reason why Cleveland is in the position they're in?
It's because the big man don't exist anymore. That's why. We got maybe 5 big men in the NBA, and 2 of them are definitely in the All-Stars, both on the East. So there you have it. I don't. There's nothing more for me to recap on that. The big men don't exist. The ones that do exist are both All-Stars for the East.
Yeah, I got you. All right. Well, we're gonna move on to the Western Conference. And obviously get into, what they're doing over there. First starting with their coach, Monty Williams of the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns obviously carrying the best record in the NBA overall. And so I don't think there's any surprise there. Steve Kerr's coached some All-Star games in the past, so I don't feel bad, for that staff not getting an opportunity to coach it. Their starters, Steph Curry, Ja Morant, Nikola Jokic, LeBron James, and Andrew Wiggins would probably be the big surprise here. I can't wait to hear what your take is on that. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about them starters. Like, what stands out?
So first off, I'm gonna just talk on the coaches because the fact that you put out Monty Williams. I normally don't give a care who's coaching, but like with Monty and his story, I'm always rooting for him. I'm always rooting for Monty Williams, man. I mean, he's just a likable guy, and I'm always cheering for him. So that's one coach who I always feel will get the appreciation, and I like the fact that he's that the Suns got him in this position, or he got himself in that position. But as far as the Western starters, we already know I do feel like it was some discrepancies with the picks. However, the reason why the reason why it happened was because of injuries. Andrew Wiggins, believe it or not, I picked in my starting five. I picked him in my starting five.
Wow.
I initially had LeBron, Steph, Wiggins, well, obviously Paul George, and who am I missing? Oh, and I had John Morant.
Yeah.
So with the injuries to my Clippers, it was Wiggins fell right into that spot. But I had, like I said, I had already had him picked. So you get no complaints with me from the West. My players were injured. I really don't have any problems there. Snubs, I'm sure we'll get into that. But it was, I'm trying to tell you, my starting fives for both teams were pretty much spot on. With all the players that I picked, the selection, it just came exactly the way I wanted it. So, I mean, with the exception of my players being injured. So,
yeah. Listen, the Western Conference has always been a problem when it comes to the guard slots, right? For years, two players have had, the guard slots on lock. First of all, don't even get me started when Kobe Bryant was like, he was going to be an all-star pick every year. Didn't matter whether he was good, bad, didn't matter,
Right.
So, once Kobe retired, it seemed like Steph kind of took that mantle. And it's like, no matter what the situation is, no matter how good or bad, because listen, Steph, started off the season very hot. The Golden State Warriors were playing really well. It looked like they were running away with the league. And everybody was like, oh, once Klay Thompson gets back, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Well, all we've seen is Phoenix just win, throughout this whole process. Like literally say, hey, fuck what they're doing in the Bay Area. Like pay attention to us in the Valley. And, the fact that they don't have a single starter, in the All-Star game speaks to the fact that, popularity it's not just based on winning. It's not just based on the things that they tell you is cliche. Oh, work real hard, play real hard. You'll get an opportunity. You'll get a chance. Clearly, a guy like Devin Booker, he's continued to get overlooked when it comes to, and obviously I've had my run-ins with Devin Booker, just, off, off situations, but on the court, this kid is amazing. And so, he's gonna, if he's got to battle Ja Morant now for, because, Morant's getting that popularity, I feel bad for him because, we know that Curry's got at least a good 4 or 5 more years in him where he's going to be voted an all-star starter as a lock. And if Ja is going to be anything like he's been over the last couple months, then Devin Booker is not going to see a starting spot, maybe for his whole career.
Listen, you pretty much hit it right on the head. And this is only going to be a situational, or this is only going to be a situational problem, or it's only going to be a problem for this year. Barring injuries, snubs, the injuries, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my thoughts here because I'm thinking like I'm already thinking ahead. The injuries is what prevented a lot of snubs from happening this year, because when you look at who's missing, Damian Lillard normally, in past, James Harden has been on the West.
Yeah.
So those are 2 players right there that has opened up those spots. And then you also have to consider like Klay Thompson, also injured for a majority of the season, just recently coming back. So those are 3 spots that just opened up for the West. Now Devin Booker can sneak up in there, because at the end of the day, no matter how good, I personally feel like Devin Booker is the best player on that team, but Chris Paul holds them together. Therefore, Chris Paul would get the nod over Devin Booker when it comes to the coaches being picked. Because, like he said, with all those players, the current starting five, Devin Booker didn't make it. And if those players were injured, or if those players weren't injured, there might have been another snub. I think Ja Morant would have probably got snubbed again. And then if Ja Morant gets snubbed off the starting five, which one Ja Morant or Devin Booker, who would get snubbed from the coaches? Or would they just both get in there and then we won't see like a Rudy Gobert or?
Well, listen, the Jazz players didn't make it last year. They had to eventually be added on as replacement players. And so, I think you're right. Like in a lot of cases, the coaches have a tough job to pick when they're picking these reserves. And let's get into the reserves for the West because we didn't really talk about them in the opening here. But Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Donovan Mitchell, Draymond Green was a surprise for me. Chris Paul, of course, Rudy Gobert, as you mentioned, and Karl Anthony Towns, of course, another surprise. And I'll say just from his team, because not seeing Anthony Edwards come off of that Minnesota team. I've watched some of the games that Minnesota has had, whether it's been on NBA TV or they've had I think 2 or 3 games on ESPN or whatever. Anthony Edwards is a star of that team. I mean, he is phenomenal. I'm not normally enamored by guys' athleticism and their ability to, it's kind of like, like the Jordan effect, right? Like, where you're just physically more gifted than everyone else. Yeah. That's what Anthony Edwards reminds me of. He just, on a physical level, the kid is different. And so I just really was shocked that he wouldn't have been the Minnesota Timberwolves taken, but
Well, once again, just the same thing as I was just saying on the East with LaMelo, same situation on the West with Ant. They needed those players in the Rising Stars Challenge, and we are going to see them in the future. So the coach is probably saying to themselves, you know what, let's go ahead and hold off on this vote. Karl Anthony Towns, they gotta, situational. They have to try to get some big man in the game. Karl Anthony Towns is probably one of the top 5 big men. Therefore, he's an all-star. So, we still essentially got the players, just not in the format that we are, that we grew up accustomed to. But, like the big man they just lost. They only come back to reality when the coaches make the decisions to put them there. So, I mean, are we really going to say that that Anthony Edwards was snubbed? Is that what your feel is?
I mean, I wouldn't say he wasn't snubbed. I guess I just think that there could be an argument made, and getting into snubs. Obviously, DeJounte Murray was talked about. I'm not really a big Spurs guy, to begin with. So, and they're losing. They've been kind of hovering around. That kind of where they are, they've been hovering around that for a while. So, I recently heard Draymond Green when he was on, when they announced the reserves, he mentioned that they wouldn't have that many wins. But, Popovich, to me, like people will say Popovich is the greatest coach ever. He has to prove that, going forward, regardless of what the talent level is, because, at the end of the day, DeJounte Murray is a great player. I don't think he's an all-star.
Right.
Some would say Jaren Jackson Jr. From Memphis should sneak in there. I don't know. That would be an argument that people can make. Brandon Ingram, same thing. Brandon Ingram, but he's in the situation that we talked about with wins. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your team's not winning, it doesn't matter if you're putting up big numbers. Someone's got to take the shots.
Right.
And then lastly, and I'll touch on this is, your Clippers, obviously, is Reggie Jackson. He's been leading that team and really taking all of the big shots. since Paul George hasn't been there. And of course, we know Kawhi hasn't been there all year. And I feel like all Reggie's doing is just adding on to what he did in the playoffs. And you know me, I was probably the biggest Reggie hater of anyone. I just couldn't stand the confidence that this dude, just the gall that this dude had to take the shots that he would take, especially when you had marquee players on the floor. But he's proved me wrong, and I've ate my words. And I think, if there's a position that I know Draymond's not going to play in the game. I don't know who else may come up as an injured, but I think Reggie Jackson should get a look at least.
Well, when you put it that way, I can definitely agree. If someone is to be taken off for injury and Reggie Jackson doesn't get the nod, then I might have to look twice and be like, damn, that's kind of messed up, because he has been holding it down. The Clippers are currently in the 8th spot right now. I know it's going to fluctuate. But yeah, man, they've been balling. And or Reggie has been balling, and I know you had to eat your words when it comes to and I told you, like, man, Reggie is gonna put up some numbers. He always gonna do one or two dumb things in the course of a game, but since he's been called upon, he hasn't been making those mistakes. And that that win against the Clippers, I don't know if you saw the end of that game. He was hopping and he was pointing, he was skipping, like, give me him. So he understands, he understands that he is the man right now. So if he had an opportunity to get called up due to a player being injury, I will 100% feel that he was snubbed from the coaches, looking at him, or at least giving him a honorable mention. I feel good about that. But kind of going back to what you were saying as far as some of the other or touching back on what you were saying as far as the other players or potential snubs. Once again, we got to recap on all the players that are missing. Obviously, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Damian Lillard. Like I said, James Harden now being on the East.
Yeah,
the West has always been stacked. The East is always, you're gonna get who you're gonna get. I know in the East they were kind of throwing around some players like what's his name from the Heat?
Tyler Hero.
Yeah, they were throwing out Tyler Hero's name, and I'm sitting here saying to myself, like, he's been playing. I can give him the credit when credit is deserved. But as far as an All-Star snub, I wouldn't go that far. But yeah, the West would have had snubs one after another. We would have just been going down the list. So for you to mention Reggie Jackson, I appreciate that, and I'm pretty sure he would, because he's been holding it down for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, just as a basketball fan in general, it's been interesting to see like how this season has played out. Like you mentioned, all of the injuries has just allowed a lot of new guys to resurface or to surface up, a lot of guys to show improve, a lot of guys to take that next step. When you look at Memphis, I think they're well deserving of 2 All-Stars. They've made, one of the biggest leaps. They were a play-in team last year. They got into that 8th spot and basically got, mollywopped by the Utah Jazz. But when you think about it, look at how that role can potentially reverse this year. Memphis in that 3rd spot comfortably, and really a team that I think is poised to make noise in the playoffs. So that deserves, when you look at the consistency they've had and the fact that Jaren Jackson has been healthy, I think he should get an opportunity. Murray, whatever. But like when we talk about snubs, like you said, just thinking about the fact that those other guys are injured. Those are guys that are taking front court and guard spots easily. Kawhi and Paul George are perennial All-Stars. Damian Lillard is a perennial All-Star. So, Morant, Booker, Mitchell, these guys, have to be able to take advantage because, we know Doncic is going to be there for years to come. Jokic, LeBron, obviously, You know, we know he, you know, over the next few years, his career is winding down, but he's like Kobe. He's like
Yeah,
Michael. He's going to get a legacy vote in until he retires. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
So, you know, you know, a guy like Wiggins, I think, has to be counting his lucky stars, you know what I'm saying, to find an all-star starter spot, which means not only did the fans, obviously, because I know it's a combination of the fans, the coaches, and the players, but it's clear to me that Wiggins has had quite the resurgence in Golden State. You know, despite, you know, I don't think he's putting up the best numbers of his career as far as numbers wise, but efficiency wise, efficiency wise, you know, it's kind of like he just slid into that Kevin Durant spot, Harrison Barnes spot very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean that's why I picked him. I mean, it was definitely his efficiency and the way he's been playing. I mean, I've caught a lot of Golden State games, and you know, when Steph is you know, off the floor, Wiggins quietly holds it down. You know, and this is once again prior to Clay being there. So I mean, I'm happy for him. I mean, he was one of my picks. For a reason, because this is going to be the one and only time that he gets a potential to be in a fan voting. Because, you know, like I said, with those injuries, I know sometimes people will just pick because they want to pick their favorite players. I would have done that if my players weren't injured, but if my players weren't injured, they would have deservingly been selected by the fans. So I went with my gut. I went with my instincts on these particular picks, and you know, for me, they played out, and I'm sure, like you said, Andrew Wiggins is happy with getting that selection.
All right. Well, you know, we're winding down here. I'm going to ask you this though: who's the first pick out of these guys?
So I was actually playing with that myself. So the way I'm thinking, of course, LeBron is going to get the pick again first.
It goes by who got the most votes, right? Like
right.
Okay.
Right. So LeBron, I believe, had the most votes. He's going to get the first pick. I think it's either going to go one or two ways. He's either going to pick Giannis or Steph Curry. Only because those are both two captains that he's played against, or that he had to, you know, he was co-captain, or he was a captain against both of them in the past All-Star games. He's going to pick, for some reason, I feel like he's going to pick Steph. I really feel like he's going to pick Steph because of the fact that KD is not playing. I think he's just going to try to go with who he believes also will be the MVP and Embiid, and then LeBron will come in and pick Giannis, and it don't matter who gets picked after that because it's going to be a win for Team LeBron.
Listen, I mean, last year we saw LeBron basically, he had both Giannis and Steph and Dame, and when you talk about a massacre, I mean that game was over at tip-off. You know,
it's over before it started.
Yeah, anytime it feels like to me it's something special about anytime LeBron and Steph team up together. They seem to have, you know, like that kind of, you know, like when we think about what this era of the NBA will, you know, you've had the Bird and Magic, and obviously Jordan had the era all by himself. And then you've had, you know, like the Kobe Shaq, Kobe Duncan, because like that was kind of the rivalry that you know, I think in this next era, the next iteration of the NBA, it's going to be Steph and LeBron's story. And they're going to be like kind of the Bird and Magic of this era. So the fact that they get to play on each other's team, I mean, it's almost magical, you know, like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if, you know, obviously seeing those two team up again would be quite the joy. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to the All-Star game and all the festivities and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Just kind of, you know, piggybacking on what you just mentioned. Yeah. The last All-Star game, Team LeBron won by 20. And that was, he picked Steph as his first pick. And, like we say, over the years, the most champions or the finals that we've been catching over the last couple of years has always been LeBron versus Steph. So, with them having that rivalry in the finals, why not pick him? Like, why not play with him? You done played against him so many times. It's like, let me just go ahead and pick this little dude and, get him on my squad. And, LeBron definitely has a strategy. He definitely has a strategy with his picks because obviously, they won 4 straight. He has a strategy and it's working, and I don't think he's going to step away from that strategy. But, as always, I'm looking forward to it. I feel like the NBA has the best All-Star weekend, better than any other sports are out there. I don't know if you call any of that Pro Bowl.
Listen, it was here in Vegas, so I can't say too much bad about it. I mean, this was a crazy weekend. Actually, I'm gonna plug my Vegas Nightlife Crew show, which is out on the Good Luck Chuck Network, and Good Luck Chuck 10 at Instagram. It's on IGTV as well. That'll be coming out this Monday. We're talking about the weekend that was, and. No, you're absolutely right. I think there is nothing like the NBA All-Star Weekend, between all of the games, the festivities, all of the artists, the musical artists that come out for this. No one does it better than the NBA. They've got that on lock, and gotta appreciate it.
Yeah, man. For me, All-Star Weekend, starts off with the celebrity basketball game. Although there's no competition, it's just fun to see, the celebrities that'll be there. The Kevin Hart sticks out to me the most. The years that he played, they were just hilarious. So, the NBA has it right. I always look forward to it every year. Is usually the highlights of my February, is the All-Star Weekend. So, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we get a good game. The way how they structured it now, we have been getting good games in for the fourth quarter. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. Hope that we get some good play, and I'm sure we'll cover the other events coming soon here. But as far as the All-Star game, I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see if Team Durant can steal one from LeBron.
We'll see.
We won't see, but.
All right. And lastly, we're going to get into the 2022 NBA Rising Stars Challenge. And this year is really interesting. Like obviously looking at it, it looks like there's 4 teams that have been picked between the rookies and the sophomores. This is a game that's been around, I want to say going into like 96, 97. So we're going on almost 25 years of this event, almost 25 years, obviously. And obviously highlights of this event have always been like certain things that have come out. I can think of memorable moments like when Kyrie crossed up Brandon Knight in the Rising Stars Challenge. Remember the Jason Williams off the elbow pass, in the Rising Stars Challenge. Iverson, of course, back in the day stands out. And just, over the years, obviously it's been a great thing, but they've, really kind of moved away from the format that they were going towards when they did the US versus the world, the past few years. And obviously the US was getting their ass kicked by the world a couple of times. These international players obviously are not for play. They come to take care of business. But like I said, this year is very different. Looks like 4 different teams coached by Rick Barry, Isaiah Thomas, Gary Payton, and James Worthy. They've all selected, it looks like about 7 rookies for each team. And what they're going to do is a tournament style bracket. in which the teams will play and eventually, get to a title game. So when you think about this format and just kind of think about, the rookies and the sophomores that are out there, what's something that stands out to you, Ronnie?
Well, as far as what stands out, I can tell you I don't like the format. You know me, I hate when they make these changes. When they had the rookie versus the sophomores, I was okay with that. The sophomores usually always used to have advantage because they had that extra year of play. And then when they changed it to the to USA versus the world, that one I was okay with because it was a competition on both sides. Everybody, it was almost like a Olympic type thing. The U.S. didn't want to lose, even though they were getting beat down on. But now with this whole new format, I'm gonna have to see it pan out for me to make a decision to see oh man, this is interesting. Like I want to see this going forward. I can see why they changed as far as a competition standpoint, because now that it's a bracket, that might be a little bit interesting, but I'm still a little bit skeptic on how it's working, because I feel like the when they break it down into 4 different teams, you taking the fun out of playing with the other players, because I was looking forward to seeing certain players, teaming up with each other, and now it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I think about, some of the obviously the players that are involved in this. You have LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Maxey of the Philadelphia 76ers, Scotty Barnes of the Toronto Raptors, Jalen Green, Desmond Bane, Chris Duarte. Like there's a number of rookies obviously out there that, and sophomores, of course, that I mentioned, that are out there that, yeah, like you said, we were just kind of looking forward to kind of seeing that teaming up of the rookies and the sophomores, and kind of bringing that back. But with this new format, and I get it, they're trying to shake it up because, at the end of the day, it's about competition. And, what we've seen, in this game, like you mentioned, is this the more experienced team that, essentially wins. When you would have the world team play against the U.S. team, well, a lot of these international players were playing against grown men, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They were 13, 14, 15. So they had the advantage, much like you mentioned, the sophomores having the advantage by having a year in the NBA. And so, listen, I mean, if you're a rookie, you just got to take the fact that you're going to get beat down on, you know what I'm saying? It's nothing about, nothing wrong with it. It's kind of a rite of passage, right? Like you take your lumps. It's like, the rookie hazing, kind of situation. So I get trying to make these more competitive. I think it's interesting the team captains they're using. You got the Isaiah Thomas, James Worthy, the rivalry of that. Rick Barry seems to be an NBA staple, an NBA All-Star game staple, if that. He's always around the All-Star game and stuff like that. One of the greatest shooters of all time, and of course the father of John and Brent Barry. So very, very, and Gary Payton, my favorite player, of course, and the father of Gary Payton II, that's on the Golden State Warriors. So it's just like, obviously it's an NBA family event. It clearly is a situation where they're trying to, tinker with this system to figure out a way to make it as competitive as possible. And the NBA, for some reason, Adam Silver, more in particular, he loves his tournaments, man. He's putting, it's the play-in tournament. He's talked about mid-season tournaments, and now he's creating this tournament. So it seems like to me that Adam Silver loves the spirit of competition when it comes to one and done tournaments. So, we'll see how this one works out.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, I'm just gonna be tuning in to see how it works out. But I already feel like because of the way how the NBA All-Star, how it usually works in the past is, we see the team camaraderie. We see players who are, not used to being on a team or being a teammate with a certain player, or they want to team up with this person or that person. And it just brings the fun out of it. This way is more of a competition. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, we'll see how it works out. All I do know is that Team Payton, I mean, I just want to see Gary Payton because I know it's going to be some trash talking going on. So that's probably going to be the highlight of the of this particular game for me. Gary Payton talking a whole lot of trash, because when I'm looking at the way how the teams are panned up, they matched up pretty evenly. So it's going to be interesting to see who takes it. Do you have a favorite?
I mean, listen, at first glance, it looks like Team Payton is loaded. I'm gonna be
Yes,
honest.
yeah.
I mean, between LaMelo Ball, Scotty Barnes, and very interesting, Scoot Henderson. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he is a G League player that was a very heralded high school player. Apparently took that route of foregoing college and going into the G League, and is expected to be a top 5 pick in the next NBA draft. So I'm very interested to see him. But Team Payton, yeah, looks very good on paper. Obviously, Team Worthy is pretty solid themselves. Got a bunch of good guys on that squad as well that I'm looking forward to. And Cole Anthony, Josh Giddey, Jalen Green, and Tyrese Maxey, who is he's one of my favorite players. Like it's weird, like how I just really gravitate to how this kid plays. And all he's done in that Ben Simmons saga and situation is be very solid at that point guard position. So yeah, I'm interested to see those two teams kind of go against each other, and it looks like they could potentially meet in the finals, Team Worthy and Team Payton.
Yeah, those are my 2 picks when I was looking off of the list. Those are the 2 teams that kind of stuck out to me. I was like, oh, we're gonna get it. Team Payton between Team Payton and Team Worthy. Those, and I think you were right again as far as like Adam Silver shaking it up, because as you just mentioned, with Scoot Henderson, G League players, like the transition of having G League players in an All-Star event is almost like he's trying to shake it up, to make it interesting for the G League players, to make it look like, hey, we haven't forgot about you guys as well. And, it's just going to be an opportunity to see, because we've seen some G League players who are champions.
Yeah.
So, like I say, it's just something to look forward to. And they're getting more games out of the rookies, or the rising stars as we calling them. It's not going to just be one game. It's going to be a total of three games.
Yeah, I believe that. It's like winners advance, and then the 2 teams that didn't win.
Yeah.
Play against each other, I believe.
So
yeah, weird format, but like you said, it's shaking it up, and I'm looking forward to it. It's more basketball, of course. It's more opportunities to see these young players. As you mentioned, Adam Silver is about the brand, baby. The NBA has done a great job of incorporating their sub leagues or whatever, into the mix by adding in. We've seen WNBA players in, the 2-ball competition. Remember that back in the day, and stuff like that. And this is no different. So,
well, I mean, mentioning WNBA, this might be far fetched, but because I actually watch, I watch some of the WNBA. Man, these girls be hooping, and would you have rather seen the WNBA get mixed in with the Rising Stars, or is that?
I think that's a little much. I mean, because we do know that WNBA players are actually mixed into the celebrity game. I mean, they have their own, so it's not like they don't have an All-Star weekend. They have their own, but just to kind of highlight them a little bit more. I agree. No, and I'm really like I said, Adam Silver, and before him, David Stern, did a great job of just spreading the brand, and I think the WNBA players figuring out a way to incorporate them. But let's be real. I mean, listen,
it was just a quick thought. It was, I mean, when I saw the G League, I was like, WNBA, they could have did something too, but they got their own events. It would just be cool to mix it up, because I feel like the women don't get a fair shake when it comes to views.
I mean, no comment.
I mean, this is a pretty obvious pick.
It is?
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
He plays for the Brooklyn Nets. I'm going to go with James Harden.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
Yeah, certainly. Presented by those two players. Donovan Mitchell goes to Team Durant, and Rudy Gobert goes to Team LeBron.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some size for sure. I'm gonna need some size and some defense and interior. Especially with Giannis and LeBron James playing such great basketball this year.
There's no slander to the Utah Jazz, but you guys got to understand. You guys got to understand. Just like in video games growing up, we never played with Utah. Even as great as Karl Malone and John Stockton was, we would have never picked those guys in video games.
I'm gonna need some size for sure. I'm gonna need some size and some defense and interior. Especially with Giannis and LeBron James playing such great basketball this year. I need somebody to offset that, so I'm gonna go with Rudy Gobert.
I agree.
That worked out nicely for you.
That worked out nicely. Like, I'm with you, KD. That's why I cut my hair off. I was like, I'm going.
So James Harden goes to
LeBron James.
LeBron James as the final selection of the All-Star.
I mean, this is a pretty obvious pick.
It is?
It is?
Yeah.
Sure.